Hi, this is Irene, and welcome to Hymns for Worship, Learning to Sing Beyond the Page. I'll be your host today, but before we start here, I just want to say that if you like today's presentation, there's more where it came from. For more resources on Adventist hymns, please visit my website at hymnsforworship.org. That's hymnsforworship.org. There's a cool bunch of resources that you can use if you're a church musician, if you're someone who just wants to learn new hymns. Well, don't miss out. So again, that's hymnsforworship.org. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a hymn written by l.e.c. Joers, and it was set to music by John F. Anderson. Holy Sabbath Day of Rest, found in the Seventh-day Adventist Hymnal, number 381. I chose this hymn because it's a very unique hymn and that only a few denominations probably sing about the Sabbath. Yet the hymn is even more special because it is written and set to music by Seventh-day Adventists. Lawrence Eugene Clare Joers was born sometime in the 1900s to Gus and Ella Joers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He studied in Auburn Academy and later on in Walla Walla College, now a university, where he was trained to be a nurse. It was during that time when he became a participant in the events surrounding the last train robbery in Oregon in 1923. By happenstance, he was traveling on a train where a robbery attempt by 3 brothers resulted in 4 deaths and several injuries. With the limited knowledge he had in medicine at that time, he was able to take care of the injured until a physician and a medical team arrived. Although initially Joers trained to be a nurse, he eventually entered the College of Medical Evangelists, now Loma Linda University, to study to be a physician. Following his internship at Los Angeles County Hospital, he practiced medicine in Tacoma, Washington, and then served in the Navy during World War II and the Korean War. He was awarded the Bronze Star and received a Commendation Ribbon and 17 battle stars. He retired with the rank of captain in the U.S. Naval Reserve Medical Corps. Following his retirement, he practiced medicine in Ardmore and then Jay, Oklahoma for 23 years. In Jay, he was responsible for the local hospitals becoming a part of the Adventist healthcare system in 1969 and then served as its administrator until 3 years before his retirement in 1978. Joers would write 5 books. The first, God is My Captain. It was about his 4 years in the Pacific Theater and published in 1945, the year World War II ended. It became a widely read book and was selected as one of the reading course books for the church's youth in 1955. Other books would follow in 1952, 1960, and 1972. His second book, Thou Art Peter, was a dramatization of the life of Christ and Peter. The third book, Mercy Rides on Wings, was about his experiences as a physician during a 2-month trip he took to Peru with his family in the 1950s, while he was practicing medicine in Tacoma. A fourth book, The Journey, an inside look at the human body, was done with Ronald Hester. And a final book, Call Collect, is a book about prayer. Joers became a popular speaker, invited to do weeks of prayer at Adventist academies and colleges. He also was a featured speaker at graduations, youth rallies, camp meetings, revivals, and evangelistic meetings, as well as ministerial retreats. While living in Oklahoma, Joers composed a cantata, Behold He Cometh, using Bible texts to describe the second advent of Christ. Parts of it were performed at Southwestern Junior College, now Southwestern Adventist University, in the 1950s and again in 1971. On the occasion of the l.e.c. Joers Day, a day set by the J City Council to honor him and his work. And John Reed worked with him, Joers, in preparing and arranging the final copy of the work, and Reed published it in the 1970s. It was subsequently performed by the Southwestern College Choir and released on a record. He married Annetta Mae Peterson in 1948, a music teacher at Auburn Academy who had graduated from Walla Walla College as well in 1945 with a degree in music. Because of their shared interest in music, the Joerses supported the music activities at SWAU, and in 1970, they contributed a 2-manual 4-star harpsichord to the school, and in 1972 donated $25,000 towards the fundraising for a pipe organ in the auditorium in Evans Hall. In the midst of all these accomplishments, it is interesting that Joers even found the time to write poems. As early as 1922, he began writing numerous poems and articles for the church's publications. One example is that of the hymn we are about to discuss, Holy Sabbath Day of Rest. It was set to music by John Frederick Anderson in 1924, who was also an Adventist singing evangelist, pastor, and songwriter. Later on, Joers retired to Reedsport, Oregon in 1978, where he helped strengthen and pastor the local Adventist church. He was living there when he died in 1999 at age 98. Let's talk more about the hymn. One of the greatest things I like about this hymn is that it is distinguishably written by a Saturday Sabbath keeper. Kind of mumbling around here. Saturday Sabbath keeper. I'm making a note of this because many Sabbath hymns in our hymnal have actually been written with a Sunday in mind. But in this case, it's very different. In this hymn, Joers' overarching theme was the Sabbath being a sign of God. And it is. The Sabbath is God's brand, his unique stamp, his distinguishing mark between his people and the rest of the world. The Sabbath shows God as the creator of the universe, the redeemer of mankind, the sanctifier of souls. In the same vein, those who are following him keep the Sabbath as a sign that they honor his law. On the Sabbath, while the rest of the world do their worldly business, God's people enter into a holy rest, a heavenly rest, where they can cast all their cares and renew their relationship with him. Over and over, we see that in many parts of the Bible, the Lord iterates that we will know who his people are by the sign he established. Exodus 20 verse 12 says, "Moreover also, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctify them." Exodus 20:20, "And hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God." Exodus 31 verse 13, "Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that sanctify you." Aside from these verses, one particular stupendous event comes to mind. Mount Sinai. The Israelites in all their numbers encamped at the base of Mount Sinai. It has been 3 days since Moses was summoned to go up the mountain. They have made the necessary preparations, washed themselves, washed their clothes, and devoted themselves to fasting, humility, and prayer. And now they wait with intense anticipation. Patriarchs and prophets perfectly described their experience in detail. On the morning of the 3rd day, as the eyes of all the people were turned toward the mount, Its summit was covered with a thick cloud, which grew more black and dense, sweeping downward until the entire mountain was wrapped in darkness and awful mystery. Then a sound as of a trumpet was heard, summoning the people to meet with God. From the thick darkness flashed vivid lightnings, while peals of thunder echoed and re-echoed among the surrounding heights. So terrible were the tokens of Jehovah's presence that the hosts of Israel shook with fear and fell upon their faces before the Lord. Even Moses exclaimed, "I exceedingly fear and quake." That feeling of anticipation, accompanied with flashes of lightning and thunder and darkness and thick clouds, Moses quaked. And I'm sure I would be scared myself as well. The book continued to say that the Lord intended this atmosphere of awful, awful grandeur to give the Israelites a sense of Him being the majestic lawgiver. What was He about to say that required such an emotional spectacle? Well, Exodus 21-17 records the very words the Lord spoke that day. Today, we know this as the 10 Commandments, the very same 10 Commandments that contain instructions about keeping the Sabbath. And so, Joers captures this very beautiful concept in 4 lines. In the refrain, we see, yes, the holy Sabbath day. Yes, the holy Sabbath rest. By our God, divinely blessed. It to us a sign shall be throughout all eternity. And today, this hymn is even more relevant because when we sing it, we sing and acknowledge and remember God's sign. But what does it really mean to say that Sabbath is God's sign? This quote precisely answers that. The observance of the Sabbath is the means ordained by God of preserving a knowledge of Himself and of distinguishing between His loyal subjects and the transgressors of His law. The Sabbath is a sign of Christ's power to make us holy, and it is given to all whom Christ makes holy. As a sign of His sanctifying power, the Sabbath is given to all who, through Christ, become a part of the Israel of God. And that's from Faith I Live By, page 34. Another aspect worth pointing out in the hymn is its specific mention of when the Sabbath begins. While it is not a new notion for the Sabbath to be on Saturday, it is not a common idea to believe in the concept of evening to evening. Leviticus 23 verse 32 sheds some light on this when it said, "It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even, shall ye celebrate your Sabbath." So here's how it works. If tonight is Monday night, then technically Tuesday has already started. It was not invented by some elite Jew in the Bible, but it was a concept that actually originated from God. Genesis 1:5 says that the day began when the preceding day closed, which was at sunset. The dark part of the day came first, then the light part. Hence, from the seemingly simple concept, we apply the Friday evening to be part of the Sabbath. So, on a more practical note here, this is how we are to usher in the Sabbath as the sun sets on Friday. Before the setting of the sun, let the members of the family assemble to read God's word, to sing and pray. There's need of reform here, for many have been remiss. We need to confess to God and to one another. We should begin anew to make special arrangements that every member of the family may be prepared to honor the day which God has blessed and sanctified. Child Guidance, page 529. Joers, who grew up in an Adventist home, know precisely what this was all about, and he encapsulated those concepts in the third and fourth stanza of the hymn. As the Sabbath draweth on, Friday eve at set of sun, Christian household then should meet, sing and pray at Jesus' feet, asking him for saving grace, also victory in the race, and to help us by his power to keep holy every hour. The Sabbath is one of the foundational doctrines we believe in as Seventh-day Adventists. Keeping the Sabbath sets us apart, makes us a member of God's tribe, brands us as God's people. Let us not miss the blessing of true rest reserved only on this day. Perhaps the best way to say it is through this quote. God gave the Sabbath to his people to be a continual sign of his love and mercy and of their obedience. And as he rested on this day and was refreshed, so he desired his people to rest and be refreshed. It was to be a constant reminder to them that they were included in his covenant of grace. Review and Herald, October 28, 1902. So there you go, guys. If you already know this hymn, then you probably learned a thing or two, I hope. But if not, well, take the time to visit hymnsforworship.org and learn how to sing this hymn. God bless, and don't forget, always keep a song in your heart.